Weather Service says heavy winds, not a tornado, are to blame for several homes damaged in Hobe Sound yesterday. Steve Weagle joining us now. You were with the surveyors this morning. What was that like? Give us your impression.
Yeah, it's interesting because they walk through the neighborhood, they took a look at the damage, they took a look at where the damage ends up. So they're watching for a path that might be tornadic activity, and they're also taking the first-hand account from residents too, what they heard, what they saw. A lot of people hear that freight train sound when a storm comes through, and that was a common theme from last night's storm. But that does not always mean a tornado, and the Storm Center broke it down for us this afternoon. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. When you do a site survey, what are you looking for?
Well, what we're looking for is to be able to discern whether or not it's straight line wind damage or tornadic damage. In other words, what's the general character or nature of the debris damage, and also the length and width of the swath.
So what do you see here? There's obviously a lot of damage. This is a mobile home park, so they're susceptible to strong winds. What are you looking for?
Well, what we saw here is a significant downward thrust or push. So we see a lot of in the debris field, a lot of pushing, a lot of pulling, but not a significant amount of twisting. And so with that, the label of straight line wind damage really comes in the form of a downward punch of wind. And so there's going to be turbulence, rotational turbulence along the edges of that, and so there's no doubt that's going to be seen and perhaps heard. But the downward thrust of the winds is the nature of that.
And I watched the radar last night. This happened probably around 6:20.
It was about between 6:15 and 6:30, and so the time that we have is 6:20. That's correct.
Okay. So really what you're looking for is where the debris is, what kind of damage there is, and this appears not to be a tornado, but something else.
No, it does appear to be straight line wind damage, but with a very powerful downward thrust, about 70 to 80 mile an hour winds in a very narrow channel. And that's equivalent to Category 1 force hurricane winds. And so this is stout, but to have it happen in such a small area and in such an abrupt time period is truly phenomenal.